thoughts of emptiness are filled. All of our thoughts are filled, aren't they? You didn't push your button. Is it okay if I get up here? You have a remote, don't you?
Let's do a good job, David.
All right. Mom says I'm supposed to do a good job. I will do a good job. Last night I got a wonderful sense of the family nature of this community. Those of us who were here at the Blythes party and the celebration and the honoring of these people and how much they've gifted to this community and the gifts received and the gifts given back and this dynamic. And it was so heart-touching, you know, and I was sharing last night and I shared at first service, I'm not used to family. You know, my family, it's like as soon as we got out of the house, we didn't speak to each other and headed all in different directions and you know, to this day, it's pretty much, well, most of them are dead anyways, and so to this day, that's kind of how it is. So I'm not used to family. You know, and so to be in that heart consciousness last night was just so touching. It took me back to, you know, even the very first time I got here when you know, somebody here flocked the lawn at the house where I was staying. You know, 50 pink flamingos showed up on the lawn of the house where I was staying at my second day here, you know. And I drove home and said, who vandalized Ed's house, you know? And Charlie, fortunately, was beside me, and he says, no, that's a welcoming to you. And there's this wonderful sign that says, your flock welcomes you home. You know, and so I've always been touched by the heart of this community. So I just wanted to say that. I'm not sure why. Today we're talking about life on earth. Have you ever noticed that you're living on earth? You've got a body? Check it out. Just tap yourself somewhere. You got a body? Does everybody have a body here? Who's here? Okay. I see a few of you are a little disembodied. Hi, welcome. But for those of you who are here, you know, with bodies, we're going to talk about bodies today. We're going to talk about something that is fundamental to the operation of the body known as this particular center. And that is, take a breath, money. Last week, maybe we should take a couple of deep breaths. Last week we had a wonderful reading from Eric Butterworth from his book, Spiritual Economics, and we were talking about giving and receiving, and he said, this is not about the commercial for the church. And I said, you know, that was not about the commercial for the church. The commercial will come next week. Well, guess what? Next week is now today. So we're going to talk about pledging, because today we're launching our 3-week-long pledge drive. And so take a breath. If those of you who are here for the first time, this is not the normal talk, but we're going to have fun with it anyways, hopefully, and hopefully make some spiritual sense of it, and hopefully make some practical sense of it. So if you'll lock the doors so nobody can run out and leave, that would be great. I'm only going to do this talk once. Just one time. Well, actually, I already did it earlier, but I mean one day. So we're not going to hammer at you for, you know, weeks on end or anything like that. This is not NPR, okay, or public radio. And I love public radio, but, you know, we're not going to shut down everything else and just talk to you about that. So I've in all my counseling that I've worked with, I've never met anybody who wants to know more about the theory of loving relationships. They want to have a loving relationship. Or somebody who wants to, you know, you get a diagnosis from the doctor, you don't want to know the theory of health, and I would just like to be aware of health. You want to have your body healed, right? So, you know, and you know, if you're working in finances, you want to have, you know, not just the theory of finances, you want to have financial prosperity if that's what you want. If you want a new work, if you want a new career, you want to have that develop. You know, and so, you know, later today we're going to hear from a couple of people, and one of them said, you know, I want this person in a relationship or somebody better, and you know, and we'll see what happened. You know, I'm not sure exactly how that worked out, but they'll tell us later. And so we get tangible with what we want. So what I want to talk to you about today is a tangible business of this church. Take a breath, and hopefully we're going to make it fun and interesting and spiritual, because it is all spirit. Money is as much spirit as anything else. It's not more, it's not less, because God is all there is, right? Okay? So everything, the chair you're sitting on, the clothes you're wearing, the floor, the ceiling, these musicians, everybody, yourself, all of it is God. The car you drove here in, the bike you rode, the bus you rode, whatever, It's all God. The shoe leather you walked across the street on, it's all God. I cheated. I drove today. I was bringing in a couple of things. I have a long commute. It's about 350 yards from here to my house. Yeah. So we want tangible stuff. When we're actually working with Spirit, Ernest Holmes said that what we are about is the combination of the very best of science, spirituality, and philosophy brought together and applied to human needs and aspirations. We're an applied philosophy. We don't care how many angels can dance on the head of a pin. That's not our stuff. Okay? Let other people worry about that. We're looking at how to build lives we love. Okay? Is that what you want? I mean, hopefully that's why you're here. That's one of the things I love about a Religious Science Center when I first came to it was it's a place that helps me to learn how to build a life that I love, how to build a life that works and keeps on working and keeps on growing. And we go through the ups and downs, but we continue to grow and build and apply these principles, and they continue to work. Have you experienced that? Yes. So that's what we're about. But in order to have that work for us as a spiritual community, and I don't know about you, but I kind of like hanging out with you guys. I kind of like hanging out in a community and having a roof over my head. It's cooler in the summer and drier in the winter and warmer too, right? And I've tried the idea of laying in my bed and transmitting the message straight to each of you, beaming it to your while you lay in your beds. But I find it's usually better if we all show up together in a room and we talk and listen and hear and communicate. Okay. So the center has a body. It's a building, it's the people, the staff, it's us all together. This center is a body. It's a consciousness. It's a divine idea, as we like to say, it's a divine idea in the mind of God. But it's not just an idea, it's a physically manifested idea. Have you noticed? So we had wonderful people like the Blythes who 25 years ago, and last night Reverend James Golden was here, and people like that who guided and led this church and built this building, and before that we're meeting in places like the Shasta Inn and restaurants and bars, and I heard some of the history of it, from a couple of weeks ago when Reverend Mary was here, and we've built this place so we can have a sanctuary, we built a labyrinth, we built a meditation pavilion, all that wonderful stuff. And all of that takes, unfortunately or fortunately, whatever you'd like to call it, money to do so, as well as work, as well as what we call seva, sacred service, divine service, giving to God. But all that takes and uses money as part of the process. So we're going to talk about the money. We're going to talk about just how to support that as we launch the pledge drive. So what is a pledge? A pledge is simply an agreement. Somebody on the way out asked me, what's the difference between a pledge and a tithe? I said, well, tithe is you're committing to give 10% of your income. Okay, 10%. A pledge is just you're committing to give. You get to choose the amount. Now, some of us tithe, and some of us, are not, wanting to do that right at this particular point in time. But a pledge is just simply an agreement. I'm going to give this much money per month to this spiritual home to support it. You like it when you go to work. If you have a job, do you prefer that you have an employer who agrees with you how much money they're going to pay you on a regular basis? Or would you rather have an employer who just sort of like, well, I'll pay you whatever I feel like, and by the way, if I don't happen to be here on a payday, I'm not going to pay you at all? Which one do you want to work for? Okay? Do you like a retirement plan or a pension fund that says, if we feel like it, we'll pay you, and if we don't, we won't? If you did good work this week, well, we might send you some money. If not, which one do you prefer? You want the one that has an agreement that says we're going to pay you this much money consistently at this point in time, right? Yes? Yes. Most okay. Some of you are in business for yourself, and that can get a little scary because there isn't anybody out there saying, I'm going to pay you a certain amount. And as any business person knows who's self-employed, or any self-employed person knows, there's no ceiling and there's no floor on your income. And so, but there's still an agreement that if I do this kind of work, I'm going to get this much money. If you're working for a sales organization, there's usually, this is the commission. You sell this much, you get this much percentage of commission, not just whatever I feel like on the particular day in question. So we like to have consistency. We like to have agreements everywhere surrounding us. We like to have all those agreements in place. So all we're doing is inviting you to become more conscious of your giving and allowing the board to become more conscious of our receiving and how we can spend the money. Because we can't make a plan for how to spend the money unless we have an idea of how much is coming in. It's just that simple. I've got a treasurer right over there who, Peggy, if you'll stand up, hi. And a wonderful bookkeeper, Sylvia, in the back corner. And it's their job to be wise stewards of the money. And the thing that helps them to know is how much are we coming in. Where right now there's a wonderful budget committee. We just got through creating the proposed budget for 2015. And we're kind of stretching and we're kind of growing with that budget, and we're putting that out there. But what it takes is, guess what? You participating in that. Because if you don't participate, we don't get to play together. It's just kind of that simple, right? If you don't bring any marbles to the table, we're not going to play marbles. If you don't bring a potluck dish to the Thanksgiving dinner, we're probably not going to have much of a dinner. Right? Right. Oh, okay. Were you with me so far? Yeah. Okay, good. So all a pledge is about is getting conscious. It helps the board get conscious of our giving, of our income, helps you get conscious of your giving, and that's what we're doing. So where does this money go that you're pledging? And a pledge, just to once again say, a pledge is just an agreement. No dollar amount. Nobody's going to judge you for how much you do or don't give. It's just an agreement, so we have an idea, and you have an idea. I was sharing with the first service, I've listened to financial people for years and years tell me that I should do a budget. Do a budget, get conscious of your money. And for a long time I said, no, I don't want to do that. Besides, I don't have enough money to coming in anyway, so I don't want to see how bad my situation is, so I'm not going to do a budget. I don't want to look at that stuff, right? And for a long time, my money kept on being in that kind of a state. Finally, about 3.5 years ago, I was being hired for a church, and I knew that I was kind of on the edge of income and expense, and I needed to know, if it was going to work. I say yes to what they were offering, and was it actually going to work practically in my life? And so I sat down, and I got out a spreadsheet, did a spreadsheet. Mary and I had that in common. We both love spreadsheets. And did a spreadsheet and started to create a budget. And I've maintained and kept my track of my income and my outgo consistently ever since. Strangely enough, my income started going up. Took a little dip for a little while there, but it started going up. And even when it took a dip, I had an idea of how to work with it and what I could do with it. Strangely enough, it kept on going up and up and up. And some of you will say, well, yeah, but you landed that cushy job here, it's where we pay you the big bucks. You've all seen my new Ferrari outside, right? So, in my 2 mansions. But the thing is, it didn't just go up in my minister income, it went up in all aspects of my income. I have multiple streams of income. Every single one of them went up. From the little guys, to the middle-sized guys, to the big guys. All of them went up because I got more conscious about money. We teach what you put your attention on is what increases. And so if we're willing to put our attention onto our finances, just putting our attention, and sometimes, you might be like me, it's painful to look at that at first. But you just sit there and look at it. I had to remember, it's a number. It's just a number. Breathe. If any of you have ever had to do weight loss, you start off and the first thing you do, you don't want to get on the scale and you don't want to look in the mirror because you don't like what you're seeing. And you work with a coach who will finally convince you it's just a number. It's just where you're at the moment. We teach that, Ernest Holmes said that we don't deny the existence of the condition, we deny that it has to continue to be the way that it is. Okay? So we just get conscious of it. It's just a number right now. It's just a snapshot. The movie is going to keep on going. And we're going to go with the movie. So all we're asking you to do is get conscious. So where the money goes. First of all, what I want to say is we're very transparent with our money. If you ever want to know where your money, where this community's money is going, you can make an appointment with Peggy, you can make an appointment with Sylvia, and look at the books at any point of time. Okay? We like to be totally transparent with our finances. There's no hidden stuff, there's no funny, stuff going around. If you want to know how much I make, you can find out how much I make. Okay? If you want to know how much anybody else makes, that income, all that expenditure, the staff expenses, all that is available. Okay? Having said that, our 2 biggest sources of outgo, our 2 biggest sources in the budget are the staff. That's me and Sylvia and Lori, the people who really do the work and maintain a lot of stuff around the church, and you pay me hopefully to come and inspire you. I'd like to do it for free, but my landlady, she wants to be paid. My land manager here, no, she's not. But my landlady, trust me, she sometimes comes to this church. And so she likes to be paid every month. Renting utilities. I try and tell them I'm a really beautiful, wonderful, spiritual person, and they don't need to bill me for the lights and the water and all that stuff. They don't get that idea. So I have to pay them, So we pay our people, we pay our stuff. So it's staff and then our building. And what I want to say about that, by the way, is that we're a very healthy spiritual community. We have no debt other than our mortgage. That's good news. Okay? There are a lot of spiritual communities, there are a lot of organizations out there that cannot say that same thing. We have these beautiful grounds, and it's the only thing we're still paying on. Okay? So we're healthy. This is not saying, oh, we're desperate, we need your money. This is just, we want to continue to be healthy, and we want to continue to grow in our health and our expression. So staff and building. The next thing we do is we tithe. As an organization, as a community, we tithe. We give 10% of our income out into the world where it does spiritual good. So 8% of that goes to the home office, our home office for Centers for Spiritual Living, which does a lot of behind-the-scenes work, develops class curriculum, supports us in a lot of the ministerial and practitioner processes, and then also spreads religious science teaching out into the world. So we tithe to that organization to continue that work. And then 1% of the tithing goes to an organization called Temenos, which is, for those of you who know Reverend Barbara Leger from here, she does work in the Ukraine. She's actually trained, I think it's 35 practitioners in the Ukraine, of all places, right? And do you think right now that's important to have 35 people with high consciousness sitting in the Ukraine? Yeah, okay. So that's the work that she does. So we tithe 1% of our income to that organization, as do a number of other churches. You guys may not know it, but Reverend Barbara is a rock star in this movement. Okay, we kind of just, she's our, she's our Reverend Barbara, and we see her for, just around. She's a rock star in this movement. The community spiritual leader and the president of the organization have both been over to the Ukraine to work with, those people and like that. And she's highly, highly, highly thought of, and that work is highly thought of. And so we finally got on board with supporting that work also ourselves, as do a number of other churches in the whole country. The other place we put our 1% is to an organization called the Launching Pad up in Ashland, which is a group of young people in the 20 to 35-year-old range who are launching, their careers, their lives, and like that. The Launching Pad idea was birthed in Berkeley by my friend Reverend Linda Rapond. Some of you met her when she was here in May at the Leadership Conference. And what it is to give young single people the opportunity to take these principles and apply them to launch their lives. How many of you would have loved to have had not only knowing these principles, but then an organization or a community that stood behind you of like-minded and same-age people when you were in your 20s and 30s, early 30s, to launch yourself into a life, okay? Yeah. Some of you would still like that, And so that's what they're doing, and that's what we're supporting. And so they've opened up one up in Ashland, Oregon, which is the closest one to us. If somebody would have opened one in Redding, we would have supported that instead. But the closest one is in Ashland. Firefly was just here sharing music with us a few weeks ago. She and Alana are the heads of that organization. And so they're doing that. Right now they're actually doing their first foundations class up there. Okay, so they're teaching a number of young people, introducing them to the principles for the first time. That's great. We help support that work. So that's where 1% of our tithe goes, of our income goes, 10% of our tithe. The other thing we do with our money is we support the programs that we want, and we support the programs that we want to grow into. Okay? When I first came here, I was told, up the music program, we want better music here. The music's good, but we want even more better music. And you know what I found? Those dang musicians, they want to get paid. They cost money. Don't you get those instruments and all that system for free? No? And so we have to pay them to show up. They want rent and utilities and all that stuff too. And so the music program takes some money. We're working on also expanding the sanctuary in terms of, we're going to have new colors, we're going to have better speakers. I tested, Reverend Mary's always talked about that when I get really low, when I'm making a point like this, you people in the back can't hear me. Can you? Yeah. And so we're looking at more speakers that are better. Thank you, Christian. We're looking at more speakers that have better quality sound so that you in the back can hear me at any volume of voice that I speak at. Okay? Youth. Do you realize that Reverend Kay has not ever been paid a dime for what she does as the youth and family minister? Okay? So we put a dime into the budget to pay her. And then added some dollars to that dime too. So we're starting to move into that so that we can start to really support our youth program, because again, the youth is the next generation of religious scientists. It's our new generation coming up. Okay? And so we need to feed that, and we need to love that, and we need to bless that. We want to do online classes. Right now we have a person who's taking practitioner studies from Idaho with us in the class electronically. Okay? And what we've realized is what we can do with that is we can start to do classes like the Foundations class, like all these classes that we just signed up for people who are living in areas that are too remote that it's not easy for them to drive in on a Monday or a Tuesday or a Wednesday night because it's 30, 50, 70 miles away, and we can start to bring them in by computer. It takes a little bit of money to do that. Okay? And then the other thing is that I want to grow is the marketing budget. Do you know what our current marketing budget is? Peggy, don't? Zero for our marketing budget. So all of you found us in some way other than marketing. Many by word of mouth. But wouldn't it be nice if we had a little bit out there to let people know where we are and who we are? And that when they're out there trying to search for God and trying to make sense out of, when the God that they grew up with finally collapses and doesn't work, or the idea that they grew up with of God finally collapses and doesn't work, wouldn't it be nice if they knew that there was an option other than becoming an atheist? Or just angry and away from all spiritual community whatsoever. Okay? And so I'd love to do some marketing to where we can reach out to people, where we can just communicate, who are we? And let people know about that. So that's the things we want to move into is with our budget this coming year is what else can we do? How else can we expand? How else can we express who we truly are and communicate that with people? Is that something you could support? Yes. Great. So what does it look like? I'm going to talk real numbers here. What does it take to support this community? This community, our budget this coming year is between $320,000 and $325,000. Take a breath. Sounds like a big number. I used to be president of a bicycle club that had $1 million a year budget. People would say, we don't need to worry about money, we just want to ride our bikes. And it's like, somebody needs to focus on the money because we got $1 million coming in and also a lot going out, and we got to focus on that. So it's the same thing. We have a wonderful budget committee and a wonderful board that focuses on the money. But our budget is $325,000 for this year. Some of that money comes from classes and events, but a lot of it comes from our, what I call Sunday collections. Some of you mail yours in on Monday and Tuesday, that's okay. But we call it Sunday collections. We call it collections, and out of that, $240,000 comes from you guys, from contributions. Take a breath. Now, once again, that sounds like a big number, right? $240,000, that's almost $250,000 comes from you annually. You say, wow, that's a lot of money. How are we ever going to do that? Now, first of all, yes, you've been contributing that. We have about 180 people who show up here every Sunday on an average. That's the average over the last year. If every single one of those people were to pledge and give $112 a month, that's our nut right there. That's $28 a week. Take a breath. You can hear the silence in here. Now, some of you right now are sitting there going, there's no way. There's no way I can fit that into my budget. And I understand that. I think I talked last week about being at the point where I was down to, I could only afford $1 for a practitioner session. Okay? Trust me, at that point in time, I was not contributing $100 a month to CSL Seattle. I didn't have it. Okay? The good news is there are people who contribute more than $112 a month. Okay? That's good news, by the way. Yes. Yeah, somebody after the first service was teasing me in the lunchroom there. She said, oh, that means I can reduce my giving. I said, well, if that's what you really want to do. She goes, no, I don't. Those of us who give, and those of us who live in that giving consciousness, understand the benefit that comes back, because we've already talked about, as we talked about last week, the universe is a giving and receiving process. You can't outgive the universe. You can't outgive God. Okay? So not everybody can do that. But again, we're a family, as we just talked about earlier. We're a family. We come together and we support this community together. What I would invite you to do is to pledge something. If it's $5 a month, it gets you conscious and it commits you into doing something. And as most of you know, if you commit towards something and start moving in that direction, stuff happens that's good. And so even if all you can do is $5 a month, if you write that down on a card and start working with it and start, we're going to talk in a few minutes about what we're going to do to support that process for you, and start applying the principles of prosperity to your life, I'm willing to bet that by the end of next year, when we're having this conversation again, you're going to be able to do $10 a month. or $20 a month, or $100 a month. Okay? Because that's how it works. When we commit, we start to move. So I'm going to invite you to commit to something. Why give? Why should I even do this? Okay? Because I need a new car. No, that's not why. Number one is to get conscious of our giving, to get conscious of our money. We talk all the time about it's all about consciousness. The song was about our thinking. I have a friend, Andy Anderson, who says, has a song that goes, I'm always thinking, you're always thinking, but do we really think about what we think about? Okay? So we're always thinking, we're always doing that. Do we get conscious? Do we get conscious with our giving and receiving? Do we get conscious with our money? And the more consciousness we bring to our money, the more attention we put on it, the more it grows. Okay? So one is to get conscious. Two is to take ownership. To become an owner in this spiritual community. We have times that, some of you may have had those times in your lives where you're just sort of dating around. Some of you remember those? Nobody? Okay, one person admits to it. Yes, a couple of people. All right. And then eventually you moved into a committed relationship where you said, hey, it's you and me. Okay? That's a different energy, isn't it? Some people, I just saw a shrug of shoulders, I don't know. Trust me, it's a different energy. Harry and Frances, have not had, they've been married for how many decades? 6 decades. I was married for 6 years one time. Actually, 2 times. Maybe someday I can get past that barrier. But it takes commitment. It takes commitment. And so are we willing to commit? Are we willing to do that? Are we willing to say, yeah, this is my spiritual home? It's been said that we can, if you want to know where your real focus is and what you really value in your life, look at your checkbook and look at your calendar. Where you put your time and where you put your money is what you value in life. If I say that I value spending my time with my children and my calendar does not reflect that, I'm not spending time with my children or my spouse or my spiritual practice. Okay? Do we have that in our calendar? Do we have it? Do we put the time and do we put the money into it? So it's the invitation for you to start to put the time and the attention and the focus and the dollars into your spiritual community, this home that you value. And so are you willing to do that? Okay? Are you willing to commit to your spiritual life and growth? Because that's what we're about, is supporting you in that. What do I receive? We've talked about the giving, but we also talked about there's a law called giving and receiving, giving and receiving. So what do I receive from this? Well, first of all, when you commit, things change. Things change. When you move from dating around to that committed relationship, things change. The relationship becomes more solid. Good stuff happens in your life. There's that wonderful W.H. Murray quote that I don't have completely in my head, but it's when I commit, everything shifts, including, providence itself starts to unfold things that have never happened that I never dreamed of before. So when we commit, when we start to move, we receive from the universe itself. Stuff shifts. Secondly, in the flyer in your program, the 2015 Pledge Program flyer, there's some actual tangible gifts at different levels of pledging that you'll receive from us. I wanted to do something where this year when you pledge, you get something back tangible. And so there's, depending on the level that you give, there's classes for free or for 50% off. There's a gift card from the bookstore. And every single week you're going to get an email or a letter, whichever you prefer, in the mail with a prosperity affirmation on it, which leads into our third process. And that is, I don't believe in giving out of lack or giving till it hurts or giving from need. I believe in giving from abundance. And so my goal is to support you in expanding your abundance, knowing that part of that you'll share with us. And guess what? A lot of it you get to keep and play with, which is good news, right? Okay? And so we have programs to support that. There's a wonderful song called Filling Up and Spilling Over Like an Endless Waterfall. And I feel that as the kind of the model that I think of when I think of giving, is that we fill up. And I want to support you in filling up more than ever before this year. Our theme for this coming year is, Behold, I make all things new. Behold, I make all things new. It's a quote out of the Bible. And it's for us to allow Spirit to bring newness into our life in ways that are wonderful, in ways that are enjoyable. This is not a flip everything upside down, but in ways that are just ever more sweet and joyous in life. Would you be open to that? Yes. Okay? So we're going to develop some programs for that. So starting in January, we're going to start the Prosperity Plus 2 class again. There's been a number of people, I think 28 people took the class last summer and experimented with it, went on a grand experiment, and almost every one of those people has come back to me and said, that changed my life in really wonderful, powerful ways. Okay? So we're going to be doing that again in January. I suggest very strongly that if you want to shift your prosperity in life, and remember, prosperity is not just money, it's everything, that should be in that class. Secondly, we'll be doing weekly prosperity treatments. Everybody who participates in the pledging program will get a weekly thought to contemplate on prosperity. So if you work with that each week, you're going to be expanding your consciousness. Those empty thoughts are going to start to fill up with prosperity. And then thirdly, we decided to move the Intentions Retreat from the expensive hotel down the road for $300 a person and move it in-house here for $100 a person. So it's a whole lot cheaper and a whole lot more affordable for more people. Okay? And so if you've never set an intention and been supported in manifesting that in your life, this is the time to do it. It is the most powerful process. I was sharing with the first service that Seattle has done this workshop for 20 years. And they keep doing it, and it keeps filling up over and over again to the point where right now it's an invitation-only workshop. They can't get as many people into the workshop as want to be in it. So they invite people in by invitation only, and they have a separate, one day for the rest of the folks. So this Intentions Retreat will support you in creating powerful intentions in your life, and then have a monthly follow-up workshop each and every month throughout the year to help you to manifest that. So we're doing programs to not just give, but for you to create lives that you love, and that's what we're here for. Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to receive that? Yeah. Okay? So that's what we're doing. And then finally, we support a community that does great work. A couple of weeks ago, Reverend Mary read her some letters from a prisoner that she works with in Missouri. And last I checked, Missouri isn't real close to Reading, is it? No. Okay, no, it's pretty far away. So our outreach goes way beyond these walls, okay? And yet those letters this teaching has so affected people, such as that prisoner, that they have lives changed. They've gone from the totally negative and desperate thinking to recognizing the power of their lives and the power of this teaching. We also have people, I've invited Christian and Kelly Rizzi to share with us, if you would come on up and share with us briefly a little bit about what this community means to you. So we can kind of get an idea of the focus, the impact on that, on how it has affected people's lives here.
Good morning, everyone. Christian and I wanted to come this morning to talk to you a little bit about what the center has given to us and why you see us here on a regular basis. We met 23 years ago, thanks to Crystal Gardner sitting in the back. And at the time, I didn't know anything about this teaching. Christian taught me the principles of it through our friendship, through hour-long phone calls. And what I started to realize was that the principles of this belief were working in my life, and the principles I had been using were not. So then, fast forward to the year 2000, I was going through a terrible divorce. I came and I made an appointment with Andrea Golden, who was the minister at the time, and I said, I don't know, do you think this church would be a good fit? She said, well, it's really up to you, Kelly. There's a great center across town, the Pilgrim Congregational, and, I would invite you to try both. And I was completely shocked. I'd never heard a minister say, well, I don't know if it's a good fit for you or not. It was like that Macy's Christmas movie where the Santa sends people out to get what they really want from the store down the street. So I was sold. I thought, I have to check this out. So I started coming, and my very first Psalm class with Andrea was Mary Manon Morrissey's book, Building Your Field of Dreams. And 3 things happened in that class. Number 1, I learned about tithing. I learned that tithing to me became as natural like as breathing. I now can't wait to get paid so that I can give back to the center that gives so much to me. I wouldn't be the person that I am here today if it weren't for the teachings and for the people in this room and who are a part of this center. So that was the first thing. The second thing it did was I realized I was living in the shadows of how I saw myself. Through the process of that class and learning the teaching, I shifted my perspective of myself, and all of a sudden I was directly in the light, God's light, and I could see that God was not only out there, but God was in me. I learned that I could co-create with God. I didn't have to beg for, please God, help me get an A on this test. It wasn't like that anymore. It was, oh, God's in me. I'm at choice about this. And the third thing that happened in that class was that we made a statement. Our prayer was for this or something better. So I thought, you know what? My prayer is for Christian Rizzi or something better. I got really clear. And it worked. Within months, we were in a loving relationship, and we just celebrated our 9-year anniversary. So. So what I wanted to share with you is that this family, the people in this room, the synergy that you experience when you're here, it's real. It's where it's at. It's who you want to be with. It's what's going to shape your life. And, we went through a tragedy 4 years ago. Everybody came to our side, loved us. We had homemade meals for 2 or 3 weeks. There's just nothing like it, and it is a true gift. So I wanted to come this morning just to sincerely thank every one of you for being a part of that.
So for me, Reverend David asked us to talk about what we've received from the center, from the community over the years. And my experience when I was a young man was that we grew up in a family that didn't, my folks didn't say, you have to believe this way. But we were encouraged and definitely fostered a relationship with Spirit, with God, and went to church and did things like that. But it never made sense to me that there was only one right way. That if for some reason, if I guessed wrong, I was going to go to hell. I could go to hell anyway. Anytime I get all weird and negative and all of that stuff, So anyway, it just never made a lot of sense to me. So what I found is I came in here, my folks were introduced by Patty to this center. I was introduced to this center by my folks, and it all started to make sense. I got into classes. I started working with the youth group, with Children's Church, and my life really opened up. And I started to understand how I can use what I already knew and had an intuitive sense of, but I got the tools to how to put it into practice in my life and direct the flow of my life instead of just allowing life to sort of direct me wherever. And I can't tell you how invaluable this teaching has been and that understanding of these principles in not only creating the kind of life and continuing to create that life. It's not like this stuff ends, so we stop doing that. We always have opportunities to learn and improve and grow. But certainly I wouldn't be here today and where I am now if it weren't for having been able to put into practice this teaching. And I think that's the thing. I think we wouldn't be here if there wasn't a part of us, right, that already knows what it is that Reverend David and everybody's talking about. But it's a matter of coming and finding out, how do we take this out and do it day to day and continue to just spiral upward? That's the opportunity. And here's another piece, if you didn't know. When things go bad, if you will let me say that word, wrong, not according to the way you think they ought to be or we think they ought to be, this is it. This grounded Kelly and I, and through a very difficult time in our life that some people they aren't able to stay together. Mm-hmm. And we are stronger today because of this community and because of this teaching. So thank you for that.
I love how the circle of life flows. Some of you have met my older daughter when she's been here a couple of times. Years ago, when she was living in Santa Rosa, she got her driver's license when she was 16 because she wanted to go up to the youth program up in Santa Rosa because she happened to like the youth coordinator up there and thought he was really great, long-haired kind of guy and like that. His name was Christian Rizzi. So I love that. That's how this community works. So what Christian said is, bottom line, do you want to support yourself in having a life that works, in the community that supports you in having a life that works? And so if you do, what I'm going to do is invite you to do 3 steps of homework. Ready for homework? Okay. Take this home with you. That's step 1. Can you do that? Okay. There's a pledge card inside. It's got a place for your name and all that stuff on it. It's pretty simple and straightforward. There's a booklet that just talks about a little bit about what we're about and why to give and stuff like that. Number 2, and I want you to listen to my words carefully, sit with it. Some people in the first service heard sit on it, but it was no, sit with it in meditation and contemplation, take it into prayer, ask Spirit for guidance. What's mine to give this year? Just listen for the answer. There's no judgment. Nobody's going to judge you right or wrong, good or bad, none of that stuff. But just listen for within you, what's mine to give this year. And finally, 2 Sundays from now, we're going to have a wonderful sacred service to receive those gifts, to receive your pledges. And so bring it back 2 Sundays from now if you're going to be here. If you're not going to be here, you can turn it into Sylvia at the back desk right now on the way out. There's information, and she can also help you if you want to do automatic withdrawal or credit card, processes and like that. She's ready to help you with that, after the service. So that's your homework for the 3 things. 1, take it home. 2, pray over it, pray about it, listen to it. And 3, bring it back and help us celebrate, and you be celebrated in 3 weeks. Are you good with that? Yes. All right. Thank you. I know this has been a tough talk. This is the only time I'm going to talk about this. We will not be doing this kind of a talk next Sunday, so it'll be safe to come back for those of you who don't like this. Frankly, I'm a little uncomfortable with it too, but we have to do this process just so we know. And what I want to do is be honest with you and be transparent with you and just say, this is what it takes. This is what it takes. And will you play in that and participate in that with me? And so I hope you will. So I want to close with a quote from Catherine Ponder from her book, The Dynamic Laws of Prosperity, a book that's in the bookstore, by the way. And if you really want to step up your prosperity starting right now, get that book and read the first 4 chapters and do the processes in them. Her quote is, "True prosperity has a spiritual basis. God is the source of your supply. Your mind, body, abilities, talents, education, job, or profession are all instruments and channels of your prosperity. But God is the source. Therefore, you must do something definite and consistent to keep in touch with that rich source if you want to be consistently prospered. Sharing is the beginning of financial increase. Systematic giving opens the way to systematic receiving. When you get consistent in your giving, the universe gets consistent in its receiving. And not just giving here, I'm not just talking necessarily about pledges by itself, just when you get consistent in living a life of giving in every single way, the universe gets consistent about giving back to you and you're receiving. Let's pray. So I know that the infinite presence is all that there is. It is the infinite supply, it is the infinite abundance, it is the infinite good of the universe, far, far, far beyond our wildest imagination. So we open up to that. We take a moment and let go of any ideas of lack or limitation we have, and be aware of that which is completely without limits. The infinite presence, the infinite love, the infinite good, the infinite wisdom and creativity of this universe, the infinite power of this universe. We breathe that in, we rest in that for a moment. We just remember that that is truly all there is. No matter what it looks like in our life at this moment, that infinite presence is truly all that there is, more magnificent than we can ever think of. And then we remember that because that is infinite, that each of us has to be one of that infinite presence. So we get to sing, God is my source, God is my power. We get to know that this is the truth in every single detail and aspect of our lives. This is the truth. And so I speak my word that today we open up to that truth more fully again than ever before. We open and say yes to the good that is ours by right of divine birth, and each of us is divinely born. We open up to the love. We open up to the wisdom. We open up to the creativity. We open to the power. We open to the great good that is truly our nature already. We have never, ever been separate from it. And so we release anything, any old beliefs that say we've been separate. We release the ideas of lack and limitation. They're not the truth of us, and we open to the infinite spirit, the infinite presence. We breathe that in, we expand, we feel it energizing every cell of our bodies. Every thought, every feeling, every aspect of our beingness is blessed and energized by opening to this infinite presence that is the truth of our nature, that is already right now in operation. We simply say, yes, I am willing to be moved, vibrated, enlivened by this energy. I step out of the belief in shadows and recognize that I'm standing in the light and recognize that I am the light in form. And for all this, for each of this, for all that comes out of this, because I know that as each of us knows this, our lives transform in ways that are far, again, beyond our imagination, in good that we cannot even think of today. And so as we open to that presence, as we open to that, I give thanks for all the good that comes out of that. I give thanks for each person who is saying yes to a greater and greater and greater experience and expression of spirit in their lives here and right now. Greater and greater giving, receiving, an endless cycle of the universe. Right here and right now. I'm grateful for the trust we place in the divine, in everywhere in our lives. And so I release this word and plant it into the soil of the law, the infinite that knows exactly how to do this. We don't have to know the how. The how is up to the infinite universe. We just simply choose the what. And the what that we have chosen is a life of greater love and greater joy and greater magnificence than we have ever experienced before. And so we allow that to move into our experience, move into form for us right here and right now. We say yes to it, and together we say, and so it is.